Lieutenant Harper had been in space for 6 months, and in that time she'd cataloged 238 alien plant species, prevented one diplomatic incident involving fermented fruit, and somehow, become the adoptive mother figure to three apex predator toddlers who could probably tear through steel plating if they put their minds to it. The universe, she had decided, had a twisted sense of humor. The research vessel Horizon's Edge hummed with its usual mechanical symphony as Harper made her way through the corridors, boots clicking against polished floors. Behind her, moving with that peculiar silent grace that only predators possessed, came her tiny shadows. 3 of them. Always 3. Rith, Luca, and Pip. The Kelvathi cubs who had decided, much to everyone's confusion and their parents' mortification, that Harper was their person now. The Kelvathi were magnificent, terrifying creatures. Bipedal, standing nearly 8 feet tall when fully grown, with sleek fur that ranged from midnight black to deep purple, and eyes that gleamed like cut gems. Their claws, oh, those claws, were crystalline structures that could extend from their fingers, capable of slicing through most known materials. They were warriors, hunters, beings who lived by codes of honor so strict that Harper got a headache trying to remember all the rules. And their children followed her around like she was the Pied Piper of the galaxy. "Harper," came a voice from behind. Not one of the cubs. This voice was deeper, resonant with the kind of authority that made junior officers stand straighter. She turned. Ambassador Ketrix stood in the corridor, all 8 feet of intimidating warrior diplomat, his deep violet fur immaculate, his ceremonial armor polished to a mirror shine. His eyes, bright amber, held that particular expression she'd come to recognize over the past 2 weeks. Embarrassment, mixed with resignation, mixed with something that might have been amusement if Kelvathi could admit to finding anything funny about their current situation. "Ambassador," Harper said, keeping her voice professionally neutral. Behind her, she heard the soft patter of paws. The cubs had immediately hidden behind her legs at the sight of their father. Not out of fear. Kelvathi parents were devoted and gentle with their young, but because they knew they were supposed to be in the learning den with the other cubs, not stalking a human xenobiologist through the ship's corridors. "My offspring," Ketrix said, and the words came out with the long-suffering tone of parents across every species in the known universe, "are not in the learning den." "No," Harper agreed, "they are not. They are, instead, following you. Again." "Yes. To the waste reclamation observation deck yesterday, to the cargo bay this morning, and now—" He paused, his nose twitching slightly. "You smell of the green growing place, the laboratory with the plants." "I've been working," Harper said, "cataloging samples from the Helix Nebula collection. Very exciting stuff. Lots of photosynthesis happening." One of the cubs, Pip probably, she was always the most vocal, made a tiny chirping sound. In Kelvathi cubs, it meant curiosity. In adult Kelvathi, the same sound would be a battle challenge that could shatter glass. Ketrix's ears flattened slightly against his skull. "They should not impose upon you, Lieutenant. It is not appropriate. You are not of our pack. You are not responsible for their supervision." "They're not imposing," Harper said, and meant it. Sure, having 3 alien toddlers with retractable claws shadow your every move took some getting used to. But they were sweet, in their own terrifying predator child way. Curious, eager to learn. And the way Pip would curl up against her during breaks, purring so hard her whole tiny body vibrated, well, that was pretty adorable, actually. "Nevertheless," Ketrix began, Papa, Rith said, stepping out from behind Harper's legs. He was the boldest of the three, all puffed up and trying to look fierce. His fur was pitch black, like his father's, and his baby claws were already showing the crystalline structure they'd develop fully when he matured. Harper shows us human things. Learning. We are learning. You are supposed to learn in the learning den, Kettrick said, but his voice had softened. With the instructors. Learning den is boring, Luca added. He was the thoughtful one, the one who asked endless questions. His fur was a lighter shade, almost gray in certain lights. Harper's plants are not boring. Harper's plants make air. That is important. Kettricks looked at Harper. Harper looked at Kettricks. Somewhere in the unspoken exchange, both of them acknowledged that arguing with determined children was a losing battle, no matter what species you belong to. Perhaps, the ambassador said slowly, we might establish structured learning time with Lieutenant Harper, if she is willing. I'm willing, Harper said, because what else was she going to say? Besides, the cubs were growing on her, like very sharp, very mobile barnacles, but still. Kettricks inclined his head, the Kelvathi equivalent of a grateful nod, and departed, his footsteps surprisingly silent for someone his size. Okay, troublemakers, Harper said, looking down at her tiny shadows. I've been in the lab for 8 hours. I smell like fertilizer and sweat. I'm going to my quarters, and I'm going to take a shower. And you three are going back to... 3 pairs of gem-bright eyes stared up at her. Rith's amber, Luca's green, Pip's pale blue. The cubs had perfected the art of the pathetic look. It was devastating. Fine, you can walk me to my quarters, but then you go back to the learning den. Deal? Deal, Rith said, in heavily accented but clear human standard. The cubs were picking up language at an impressive rate. Harper's quarters were modest. A bedroom, a small sitting area, and a bathroom that, by Navy standards, was practically luxurious. She had an actual separate shower, not just a sonic cleaning booth. Water recycling technology had come a long way, and the Horizon's Edge had been fitted with some of the best systems available. All right, she said, keying open her door. This is where we part ways. I'll see you 3 tomorrow for... The cubs slipped past her legs and into her quarters like furry little missiles. No, wait, that's not... Harper sighed. You can't just invite yourselves into people's rooms. Pip chirped, already investigating Harper's bookshelf with intense fascination. The cub was tiny, even for her age, with cream-colored fur and those enormous blue eyes. She reached up with one paw, claws carefully retracted, and patted a physical book, an actual paper book that Harper's mother had given her before she shipped out. Careful with that, Harper said, moving to guide the cub's paw away. It's very old, fragile. What is fragile? Pip asked. Breaks easily. Like... Harper looked around for an example. Like an egg. Egg, Pip repeated solemnly. Then, louder, Rith, Luca, this is like egg. Do not touch. The 2 male cubs, who had been poking around Harper's desk, immediately backed away from everything. Kelvathi took warnings about fragility very seriously. Their own cubs were robust, hard to injure. The idea that something could break easily was treated with the kind of respect humans reserved for high explosives. Harper's communicator chirped. She glanced at the message, a request for her analysis on the helix samples, needed by morning. Of course. She looked at the cubs, now sitting in a neat row on her floor, watching her with unblinking attention. 20 minutes, she told them. I need to shower and change. Then I'll walk you back. You can stay here, but you have to be quiet and not touch anything. Understood?" Three heads nodded in unison. "I mean it. Nothing fragile. Actually, nothing at all. Just sit there. Can you do that?" "Yes, Harper," they chorused. She should have known better. The bathroom was small but functional, with a shower stall, sink, and the usual facilities. Harper peeled off her uniform, standard Navy issue, gray and practical, and tossed it in the recycling chute. She could hear the cubs outside, making small talking sounds to each other in their own language. It sounded peaceful enough. She stepped into the shower, pressed the control panel, and let out a sigh of relief as hot water cascaded over her shoulders. Heaven. Absolute heaven. 6 months in space, and hot showers were still the best part of her day. The steam rose around her, and she reached for the soap, actual soap, not the sonic cleaning gel, and started scrubbing away the day's accumulated grime. She was humming tunelessly, eyes closed, when she heard it. The scream. Not a human scream. A Kelvathi distress call, high-pitched and piercing, the sound that cubs made when they were in genuine danger. Harper's eyes snapped open just in time to see her bathroom door, locked, or so she'd thought, burst open with a crash of splintering metal. 3 small bodies launched themselves at her. "Harper, no!" Rith yelled. "The ceiling attacks!" Luca shrieked. Pip simply latched onto Harper's leg with all 4 limbs, claws carefully retracted but grip iron-tight, making sounds that Harper's translator couldn't even process. "What? Stop! I'm fine!" Harper yelped, trying to maintain her balance on the wet tile. Water was everywhere. The cubs were everywhere. Rith had somehow climbed up the shower wall and was swiping at the showerhead with his claws, trying to— oh, God! He was trying to destroy it. "Get down from there!" Harper grabbed for him, slipped, and would have gone down hard if Luca hadn't, somehow, positioned himself as a furry buffer. She grabbed the shower wall for support, soap stinging her eyes, while 3 soaking wet cubs clambered over her in their frantic rescue attempt. "It hurts you!" Pip wailed, still attached to her leg. "Water hurts, Harper." "It doesn't hurt. Rith, stop attacking the shower. No, don't." The showerhead came loose in a spray of water and sparks. The emergency sensors in the ceiling started blaring. And then, because the universe clearly had it out for her, the bathroom door, already damaged, flew completely off its hinges as adult Kelvathi warriors burst through. Ambassador Ketrix was in the lead, his claws fully extended, eyes wild with the kind of fury that made Harper understand exactly why his species had never lost a war. Behind him came 2 more warriors, both in full combat stance, weapons drawn, scanning for threats. They all froze. Harper stood there, dripping wet, desperately trying to cover herself with her hands, with 3 soaking cubs clinging to various parts of her anatomy. Water sprayed from the destroyed showerhead, creating an indoor rainstorm. The alarm continued its piercing wail. Soap suds were everywhere. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Somewhere in the corridor outside, Harper could hear running footsteps and confused shouts in human standard. "I," Harper said, her voice very small and very calm. "Can explain." Ketrix's claws slowly retracted. His ears, which had been flat against his skull in combat mode, gradually rose to their normal position. He looked at his cubs, drenched, clinging to the naked human, then at the destroyed bathroom, then back at Harper. "Please do," he said. An hour later, Harper sat in Conference Room 3, wearing a borrowed uniform that was 2 sizes too large, with her hair still dripping onto her shoulders. Across the table sat Ambassador Ketrix and 3 other Kelvathi elders, their expressions ranging from confused to horrified to, Was that one trying not to laugh? The cubs had been removed, protesting loudly by their mortified caretakers. Harper could still hear Pip's wails echoing down the corridor. "But Harper needs us!" "Let me see if I understand correctly," said Elder Vethis, a silver-furred female whose age was marked by the intricate patterns in her crystalline claws. "You were standing under falling water. Intentionally." "Yes," Harper said. "Hot water." "Yes." "For pleasure." Harper paused. "Well, also for hygiene, but yes." The four Kelvathi exchanged looks that clearly communicated what the hell is wrong with these humans. "We clean ourselves through dust immersion," Ketrix said slowly, as if explaining to a child. "The mineral particles absorb oils and debris from our fur. It is efficient, effective. It does not involve willingly subjecting oneself to liquid precipitation." "Right," Harper said. "Humans are different. We need water to clean properly. It's normal for us." "The cubs," Elder Vethis continued, her tail twitching in what Harper had learned was agitation, "believed you were under attack." "I gathered that, yes. They breached a locked door to rescue you." "They were very brave," Harper offered. "They saw water falling from above and assumed a threat," Ketrix said. And now Harper could hear something in his voice. Not anger, something else. "On our homeworld, water falling from above means the sky lakes have ruptured. It happens during the storm season. The water comes with such force that it can strip flesh from bone. Cubs are taught from hatching to flee from falling water, to seek shelter, to protect the pack." "Oh, oh no." Harper's chest tightened. The cubs hadn't been overreacting or being silly. They'd seen something that, in their cultural context, represented genuine mortal danger. And they'd run toward it anyway, trying to save her. "I didn't know," Harper said quietly. "I'm so sorry. If I'd known, I would have explained before." "You could not have known," Ketrix interrupted. "We did not think to mention it. Who would imagine that humans recreate the conditions of our most deadly natural disaster inside small enclosed spaces for enjoyment?" Elder Vethis made a sound that might have been a snort. "The issue," said another elder, male with dark red fur, "is not the water ritual. The issue is that the cubs have bonded to you, Lieutenant Harper. This is unprecedented." "They follow her constantly," Ketrix said. "They seek her approval. They become distressed when separated from her. And now they have attempted to protect her at risk to themselves." He leaned forward, his amber eyes intense. "In our culture, cubs only behave this way toward pack leaders, toward those they trust absolutely to keep them safe. It is instinctual, biological. They cannot control it." "I didn't do anything to encourage it," Harper said quickly. "I've been professional. I've maintained appropriate boundaries." "We know," Ketrix said. "That is what makes this so significant. They chose you, Lieutenant. You did not choose them." The silence that followed was heavy with implications Harper didn't fully understand. "What happens now?" she asked. The elders looked at each other. Some complex, wordless communication passed between them. Finally, Elder Vethis spoke. Now you must decide if you will accept the responsibility." "What responsibility?" "The cubs see you as pack," Ketrix said. "As family. To reject them now would cause psychological damage. They are young enough that such rejection would scar their development, make them unstable." His ears flattened slightly. "But to accept them means you must learn our ways, understand how to guide Kelvathi young. You must become, in essence, pack-bonded. Not fully. You are not Kelvathi. but enough to fulfill your role in their eyes. Harper's mind raced. You're asking me to… what, exactly? Become their guardian? Their pack sister, Elder Vethis corrected. Ketrix remains their father, their primary authority, but you would be recognized as family, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails. This has never been offered to an outsider, the red-furred elder added. Never in our entire history. It is only being considered because the alternative is worse. Harper looked at Ketrix. What do you want me to do? The ambassador's expression softened slightly. I want my cubs to be whole and healthy. If that means accepting that they have chosen a human as pack, then… He spread his hands, claws catching the light. The universe provides what we need, not always what we expect. Can I think about it? Harper asked. Of course, but not for long. The cubs are already asking for you. They let her go after that, with promises to reconvene the next day. Harper wandered back to her quarters, now with a maintenance crew repairing her bathroom door, in a daze. Pack bonded to 3 alien cubs. That had definitely not been in her mission briefing. She found Dr. Patel in the mess hall, eating something that technically qualified as food, but looked like it had given up on life. He glanced up as she approached, his weathered face creasing into a smile. Heard you had an exciting shower, he said. News travels fast. 3 cubs screaming about sealing water attacking their favorite human? Harper, the entire ship heard. I've had 6 people ask me if you're starting a daycare. Harper slumped into the seat across from him. They thought the shower was dangerous. On their homeworld, falling water is bad, really bad. Patel's expression shifted to understanding. And they tried to save you anyway. Rith destroyed the showerhead with his claws. He's 4 years old, equivalent. Brave kids. Terrifying kids, Harper corrected. Patel, they want me to become pack-bonded, officially recognized as part of their family structure. The doctor set down his fork. That's significant. That's insane. I'm a xenobiologist, not a parent. I study plants. Plants don't climb you and purr and try to rescue you from perfectly safe bathing facilities. You like them, though. It wasn't a question. Harper sighed. Yeah, I do. They're sweet and curious and surprisingly funny once you get used to the whole apex predator thing. Pip has been teaching me Kelvathi lullabies. Luca asks me about everything. Why is the sky black in space? How do plants know which way is up? Can humans see in the dark? And Rith? She smiled despite herself. Rith keeps trying to protect me from things. Yesterday, he positioned himself between me and a maintenance bot because he thought it was threatening. Sounds like you've already decided. I haven't decided anything. This is a massive responsibility. What if I mess up? What if I teach them something wrong, or don't understand their needs, or… Harper. Patel's voice was gentle. You're overthinking this. Those cubs chose you because they saw something in you that made them feel safe. Trust that instinct. And trust yourself. Harper spent the rest of the evening reading everything she could access about Kelvathi child-rearing, cultural protocols, and pack dynamics. The more she read, the more overwhelmed she felt. There were rules about feeding times, sleep cycles, proper discipline methods, honor teachings, combat training schedules. A soft chime at her door interrupted her research spiral. She opened it to find Pip standing there, alone, looking impossibly small in the corridor. The cub's blue eyes were enormous and shimmering with what Harper recognized as tears. Pip? Honey, where are your brothers? Where's your father? They sleep, Pip said quietly. I cannot sleep. I worry. Worry about what? The little cub stepped inside, and Harper automatically crouched down to her level. You are hurt, because we broke your water room. You will send us away. You will not want us anymore. Harper's heart cracked clean in half. Oh, sweetheart. No. Come here. She pulled the cub into her arms, feeling the soft fur, the rapid heartbeat, the tiny body that was trying so hard to be brave. Pip buried her face in Harper's shoulder and made a sound halfway between a whimper and a purr. I'm not hurt, Harper murmured. And I could never not want you. You tried to save me. That was the bravest thing I've ever seen. Really? Really? Pip pulled back, searching Harper's face. So you will be our pack sister? You will stay? And there it was, the question that mattered. Harper thought about her quiet life before the cubs, her orderly lab, her predictable schedule, her uncomplicated existence among plants that didn't have opinions or emotions or the ability to destroy plumbing. Then she thought about never hearing Pip's laugh again, or Luca's endless questions, or seeing Rith's proud expression when he learned something new. Yeah, Harper said softly. I'll stay. The bonding ceremony was scheduled for 5 days later, which gave Harper just enough time to panic, unpanic, repanic, and finally achieve a state of resigned acceptance that her life had taken a very weird turn. In those 5 days, she spent structured time with the cubs, now with official blessing from the Kalvati Council. They showed her their favorite games, which mostly involved pouncing on things and mock hunting. She taught them about human music, which produced mixed results. Pip adored it, swaying to the rhythm with her eyes half closed in bliss. Rith tolerated it, but clearly preferred the Kalvati war chants. Luca found the entire concept fascinating and wanted to know how sound waves worked and why certain frequencies produced emotional responses. She also learned about Kalvati food, which was an experience. You cook it? Rith asked, staring at the heated meal Harper had prepared for herself in the mess hall. You make the food hot, on purpose? Humans digest cooked food better, Harper explained, taking a bite of what passed for chicken on a starship. It breaks down the proteins, makes them easier for our systems to process. All 3 cubs looked nauseated. But the nutrients, Luca said slowly. They are damaged by heat. The enzymes are destroyed. How do you survive? Different biology, Harper said. We've been cooking our food for thousands of years. Our digestive systems evolved around it. Pip poked at Harper's meal with one claw, fascinated and repulsed in equal measure. It smells wrong. To you, maybe. To me, your food smells like... Harper caught herself. Actually, let's not go there. Different species, different preferences. That's what makes the universe interesting, right? The cubs shared a look that clearly communicated humans are so weird. But they nodded politely. It was during one of these learning sessions in the ship's observation lounge that everything went wrong. Harper was showing the cubs how to identify constellations, or what passed for constellations when you were in deep space, when the first alarm sounded. Not the gentle chime of a routine drill. The harsh, urgent blare that meant actual danger. All personnel, emergency stations. Captain Rodriguez's voice came over the ship-wide comm, clipped and professional. We have sustained damage to Section 7. Repeat, damage to Section 7. Engineering teams respond. All non-essential personnel shelter in place. The lights flickered. The ship shuddered, a groaning sound of metal under stress that made Harper's teeth ache. Harper? Pip pressed against her leg, all 3 cubs suddenly alert, ears swiveling to track sounds Harper couldn't even hear. It's okay, Harper said automatically. even though she had no idea if it was okay. We just need to... Another impact. Harder this time. The observation lounge's reinforced windows showed a brief flash of something. Debris, maybe, or micrometeorite fragments colliding with the ship's shields. Section 7 breach confirmed, came a different voice over the comm. Ceiling bulkheads. Life support compromised in Sections 7, 8, and 9. Section 8. That was where they were. Harper's blood went cold as the doors to the observation lounge slammed shut with a e-quafe, pneumatic hiss, emergency seals engaging. Through the small window in the door, she could see crew members running, hear the distant sounds of organized chaos. Then the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in after a moment, bathing everything in a dim red glow. The cubs had clustered around Harper, their eyes reflecting the light like mirrors, suddenly looking far more predator than child. "Harper," Rith said, his voice steady but small. "What is happening?" "The ship hit something," Harper said, forcing her voice to remain calm, professional. "Space debris, probably. It damages the hull sometimes. The crew will fix it." "But we are trapped," Luca observed, always the analytical one. He was looking at the sealed doors, at the emergency panels that had slammed down over the observation windows. "Temporarily," Harper said, "just until they make sure it's safe." She tried her communicator. Dead. Whatever had happened had taken out local communications in this section. She moved to the door's control panel, entered her access code. The screen flashed red. Emergency lockdown. Atmospheric contamination detected. Life support minimal. That was less than ideal. Harper looked around the observation lounge with new eyes. It was a nice space, designed for crew recreation and morale. Comfortable seating, large windows for stargazing, decorative plants in the corners. Plants. Harper's mind shifted into overdrive. She was a xenobiologist. She spent her life studying how different plant species processed atmospheric gases. And right now, she was trapped in a room with failing life support and 3 alien children who were depending on her to keep them alive. She could work with this. "Okay," Harper said, moving toward the decorative plants with purpose. "Change of plans. We're going to do some science." "Science?" Pip perked up slightly. The cubs had learned that when Harper said science, interesting things usually happened. "Life support is failing," Harper explained, seeing no point in sugarcoating it. The cubs were young, but they weren't stupid. "That means the air in here is going to get bad. Too much carbon dioxide, not enough oxygen." "We will suffocate," Rith said matter-of-factly. Kelvathi didn't dance around death. Their culture considered it dishonest. "Not if I can help it," Harper said. She was examining the plants now, 2 large ferns, some kind of ivy, and a small tree she recognized as a Terran oak sapling. "Plants produce oxygen through photosynthesis. Usually it's a slow process, but I can accelerate it. We just need light, water, and the right conditions." "How?" Luca was beside her now, his green eyes bright with curiosity despite the circumstances. "The emergency lighting isn't strong enough for rapid photosynthesis," Harper said, thinking out loud. "But this is an observation lounge. Those windows are polarized, not blocked. And we're near a star system. I can see the light from here. If I can override the polarization, increase the light levels in here." She moved to the window controls. They were partially functional, despite the lockdown. Her fingers flew over the interface, bypassing safety protocols she'd learned in training, accessing systems she technically wasn't authorized to touch. The windows gradually cleared, unpolarizing. Starlight flooded the room, not as bright as direct sunlight, but enough. The temperature immediately started rising. Good, Harper muttered. Good, that's good. Now, water. The emergency systems should have… Yes, there. She found the emergency supply locker, pulled out sealed water containers. The cubs watched, silent and focused, as she began arranging the plants in the brightest spots near the windows, watering them heavily, adjusting their positions. "What can we do?" Rith asked. "We want to help." Harper looked at the three small faces, saw the fear they were trying to hide behind Kelvati bravery, and made a decision. "Those plants over there," she pointed to the corners where more decorative flora waited. "Bring them to me, carefully. We need all of them in the light." The cubs moved with purpose, their natural grace and strength making the work easier. Pip, despite being the smallest, managed to drag a potted plant nearly as big as she was. Luca carefully transported the more delicate specimens. Rith worked with focused intensity, his young face set in determined lines. They worked together in the red-tinted light, human and alien, building a makeshift life support system from houseplants and determination. "My father says," Pip said, as she positioned another pot, "that humans are not warriors, that you are soft." "We are soft," Harper agreed, checking the arrangement. "No claws, no natural armor, no enhanced senses. Your people are much stronger than mine." "But you know plant things," Luca said. "You know how to make air from green growing. That is not soft. That is clever." "Different kinds of strength," Harper said. She could already feel the air quality changing, subtle but real. The plants were responding to the light, to the water, beginning their chemical magic. "Your people are strong in combat. Mine are strong in adaptation. Neither is better, just different." The ship shuddered again. Something exploded in the distance, muffled by walls and vacuum. The cubs pressed closer to Harper, instinct overriding their brave facades. "Tell us a story," Pip whispered. "Please, like you do at sleep time." So Harper did. She told them about ancient humans who looked up at stars and imagined shapes, who created stories to explain the universe before they understood the science. She told them about explorers who crossed vast oceans in wooden ships, about inventors who dreamed of flying, about scientists who asked questions nobody else thought to ask. And as she talked, the plants kept working, kept breathing, kept producing oxygen that might buy them enough time for rescue. An hour passed, then two. The cubs were getting drowsy, the stress and fear catching up with them despite their best efforts. Harper felt it too, the headache that came with poor air quality, the lethargy creeping into her limbs. But the plants were holding. The oxygen levels were stable enough, if barely. "Harper," Luca said suddenly, his ears perking up. "Do you smell that?" She sniffed. Smoke. Faint but distinct. "Fire," Rith said, on his feet immediately. "In the next room. The wall is warm." Harper pressed her hand against the wall he indicated. Heat radiated through the metal. Whatever had happened in the adjacent lab, it was burning now, and fire in a contained space with limited oxygen meant… The ship's automated voice crackled through the emergency speakers. "Fire detected in Section 8. Initiating emergency vent protocol in 60 seconds. All personnel evacuate immediately." Harper's blood turned to ice. Emergency vent meant opening the section to vacuum, using the absence of oxygen to kill the fire. It was effective. It was also lethal to anyone still inside. "No! No! No!" She lunged for the control panel, trying to override the protocol. Her hands shook as she entered code after code, each one rejected. Locked. Override. Requires captain authorization. 50 seconds. She slammed her hand against the comm button, praying it would work, even though her personal communicator was dead. "This is Lieutenant Harper in the Observation Lounge, Section 8. We're still in here. 3 cubs and myself. We're alive. Cancel the emergency vent." Static. 40 seconds. The cubs understood what was happening. Pip started to cry, the sound breaking Harper's heart. Luca had gone very still, his analytical mind probably calculating survival odds and finding them wanting. Rith moved to the door, started clawing at it with growing desperation, his small claws scraping uselessly against reinforced metal. 30 seconds. "Please," Harper whispered to no one, to the universe, to whatever might be listening. "Please, not them. They're just babies." 20 seconds. Harper looked at the cubs, at the fear in their eyes that they were trying so hard to hide behind Kelvati dignity, and something fierce ignited in her chest. No, absolutely not. She had not become pack-bonded to these children just to watch them die because of an automated system that couldn't tell the difference between empty space and occupied space. "Rith, Luca, Pip, listen to me." She dropped to her knees, grabbing their attention. The manual override panel. Up there, near the ceiling by the emergency vent shaft. "Can you reach it?" 15 seconds. Luca's head snapped up, following her gaze. The panel was small, recessed into the wall about 10 feet up, designed to be inaccessible during normal operations. But Kelvati cubs could climb like their lives depended on it. Because right now, they did. "I see it," Luca said. "It requires a 5-digit code and a physical switch activation," Harper said rapidly, her mind racing through emergency protocols she'd studied but never thought she'd need. "The switch has to be held for 3 seconds. Can you do that?" 10 seconds. "What is the code?" Rith was already moving, scaling the wall with claws extended, using the smallest imperfections in the surface as holds. Luca followed, and Pip, not to be left behind, scrambled after her brothers with terrified determination. 59238, Harper called up, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst. Her arm throbbed. She'd slammed it against the control panel earlier, possibly fractured something, but that didn't matter now. 5 seconds. "The switch. Where is the switch?" Rith's voice was high with panic as his claws pried open the panel cover. Small fingers, designed for hunting but used now for salvation, fumbled with the keypad. "Red handle, left side. Pull it down and hold it." 3 seconds. "I cannot reach. Luca, you do the code. I will pull." The cubs worked with the kind of coordination that came from being pack, from growing up as a unit. Luca's claws tapped rapidly on the keypad, while Rith stretched, his small body at its absolute limit, grasping for the emergency handle. 2 seconds. Harper saw his claws catch the handle, saw him pull with every ounce of strength in his small body. 1 second. The automated voice cut off mid-word. The warning lights stopped flashing. The emergency vent protocol disengaged with a pneumatic hiss that sounded like the universe exhaling in relief. The cubs tumbled from the wall in a heap of fur and claws and exhausted sobs. Harper caught Pip, cushioned Luca's fall, pulled Rith against her chest as he shook with the aftermath of terror. "You did it," Harper breathed, holding them close, her own hands trembling. "You absolute brave, brilliant children. You did it." "We saved us," Pip whispered. "You saved all of us," Harper corrected. The door exploded inward, not from malfunction this time, but from Kelvati warriors cutting through with plasma torches. Ambassador Ketrix came through first, his eyes wild, his claws fully extended, followed by a full security team and Captain Rodriguez herself. They stopped dead at the scene before them. Harper on her knees, cradling 3 exhausted cubs, surrounded by carefully arranged plants in a room that should have been dead, but somehow still held breathable air. "Harper!" The captain moved forward, her dark eyes scanning for injuries. "When you didn't evacuate, we thought the fire protocols activated." "We couldn't evacuate," Harper said. Her voice sounded distant to her own ears, shock setting in. "Communications were down. The door was sealed. I tried to override the vent protocol, but I couldn't reach the manual controls." Ketrix was staring at his cubs, at the high wall they'd climbed, at the open emergency panel still swinging on its hinges. "They climbed," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "They reached the manual override." "Rith pulled the switch," Harper said, pride cutting through the fear and exhaustion. "Luca entered the code. Pip climbed with them even though she was terrified. They saved our lives." The ambassador dropped to his knees, a gesture of profound significance in Kelvathi culture. Warriors did not kneel, and opened his arms. The cubs launched themselves at their father, all 4 of them dissolving into a tangle of relieved purrs and Kelvathi endearments. But Pip pulled away after a moment, toddled back to Harper, and grabbed her hand with sticky paw fingers. "Harper saved us first," the cub said firmly. "Made air with green growing. Was clever." "Humans are not warriors," Luca added, leaning against his father, but looking at Harper. "But they are survivors. Harper showed us. Strength is not only claws." Rith said nothing, but his amber eyes held something new. Respect, Harper realized. The kind that Kelvathi reserved for proven packmates. Medical teams descended then, scanning everyone, insisting Harper come to the medbay for her arm. Dr. Patel showed up looking harried and relieved in equal measure, running a scanner over the cubs even as they protested that they were fine, perfectly fine, and could they please go with Harper? "Your packmate needs medical attention," Ketrix told them gently. "We will see her soon." "Promise?" Pip's eyes were enormous. "I promise, sweetheart," Harper said. "I'm just going to get my arm fixed. I'll come find you as soon as I'm done." It took Dr. Patel 20 minutes to confirm what Harper already knew. Hairline fracture, easily treated with regenerative therapy. The entire time, he kept shaking his head and muttering about xenobiologists who turned observation lounges into oxygen farms. "You used houseplants," he said for the 3rd time, like he couldn't quite believe it. "Common decorative flora. To sustain 4 people for over 2 hours in failing life support. Different light conditions require different photosynthetic rates," Harper said, exhausted but unable to stop the technical explanation from flowing. "I calculated the minimum oxygen production necessary, factored in our combined respiratory needs. The cubs actually breathe more efficiently than humans, their home planet has a thinner atmosphere, and arranged the plants to maximize light exposure. It was basic xenobotany." "It was brilliant," Patel said, "and insane, and brilliant." 3 days later, the ship had been repaired, the investigation into the debris strike completed, and Harper stood in the observation lounge, now cleaned and restored, wearing ceremonial clothes she'd been provided by the Kelvathi. The bonding ceremony had been postponed, but not cancelled. If anything, the near-death experience had made it more important. The room was packed. Human crew members lined one side, Kelvathi the other. Captain Rodriguez stood near the front, having insisted on attending despite her packed schedule. Dr. Patel had somehow procured actual refreshments. Harper's mother appeared on a view screen, patched in from multiple light-years away, her eyes bright with tears she was trying to hide. And in the center of it all, 3 cubs sat in a formal row, freshly groomed, wearing tiny ceremonial collars that marked them as cubs of the Ketrix pack. Elder Vethis conducted the ceremony in both Kelvati and human standard, her ancient voice carrying through the room. "We are pack," she began, "not by blood alone, but by choice, by loyalty, by bonds that transcend species and origin. Today we recognize what these cubs understood before we did, that family is not defined by similarity, but by willingness to protect, to teach, to stand together against the void." There were ritual words, ancient phrases that Harper had practiced phonetically until her tongue hurt. There was the dust-rolling ceremony, which was exactly as undignified as Harper had feared. Ketrix had brought an actual container of Kelvati home soil, and yes, they all rolled in it together while Harper tried to maintain some shred of dignity. The cubs thought it was hilarious, but the moment that mattered came at the end, when Ketrix placed a small crystalline claw, carefully preserved from his own molting as a cub, on a chain around Harper's neck. "You are pack-bonded," he said formally. "My cubs are yours to guide and protect. Your victories are our victories. Your failures are ours to shoulder together. This bond is not broken by distance or time, but only by death. And even then," his voice softened, "we carry each other in memory." Pip immediately launched herself at Harper, purring so loudly that people in the back of the room could hear it. Luca and Rith followed with slightly more dignity, but no less enthusiasm. "Does this mean," Pip asked, her blue eyes sparkling, "we can follow you everywhere again?" Harper looked at Ketrix, who shrugged, an expression he'd picked up from humans. "Within reason," Harper said, "and with some new rules. Like, for instance, when I shower, you wait outside." "But what if the ceiling attacks again?" Rith asked, perfectly serious. "Then I will yell very loudly, and you can rescue me. Deal?" "Deal." Later, after the ceremony had dissolved into something more like a party, with humans and Kelvati mingling in ways that would have seemed impossible 6 months ago, Harper found herself back at the observation windows. The stars stretched out before her, infinite and strange. Captain Rodriguez joined her, holding 2 drinks, something amber in each glass. "You know, this changes everything," the captain said quietly. "The mission, the diplomatic relationships. You've done what years of formal negotiations couldn't. Shown them that humans are worth trusting." "I just kept 3 kids alive," Harper protested. "You did it with plants and cleverness and determination. You showed them that our kind of strength matters. And those cubs," Rodriguez smiled, "they showed their people that different doesn't mean wrong." Harper touched the crystal claw at her throat. Across the room, she could see the cubs demonstrating their climbing skills to an impressed group of human engineers, Ketrix, watching with paternal pride and exasperation. "They thought rain was attacking me," Harper said, starting to laugh. "They destroyed my bathroom trying to save me from a shower." "And you nearly died together," Rodriguez added. "And you saved each other. That's pack, right?" "Yeah," Harper said softly, watching Pip successfully climb up a wall mount while humans cheered. "That's pack." The universe, she decided, still had a twisted sense of humor. But maybe, sometimes, the cosmic jokes turned into something beautiful.